Hey guys, it's Jason. Welcome to the Best Soccer Show. This episode, just me talking about some of the things happening in American soccer because it's been a little while since we've done a show. We've had some things come up in the summer and it's been busy. And I know you've missed us and you probably we'd like to hear what Jason and Jared have to say about everything going on with the U.S. men's national team, getting bounced from Copa America, the possibility of Gregg Berhalter getting fired, maybe also talking about Jesse Marsch finding some success with Canada. Maybe there's a candidate or two you've heard about in the rumor mill for the U.S. men's national team that deserves a little bit of discussion. Yeah, I feel like we probably should be on top of those things. I appreciate your patience for this summer. Things have been a little crazy for us, but we are ready to do shows. In fact, coming up on Thursday, which I guess will be July 11th, Jared and I will be doing a show in our normal time slot, 9 p.m. Eastern time. So make sure you set your calendar for that. In fact, while you're here, like and subscribe to the Best Soccer Show on YouTube. If you're listening via podcast, the podcast will be out on the normal schedule on Friday morning or whenever we can get it up after we do the show on Thursday. So, the big stuff happening in American soccer. The United States failing to get out of the group at Copa America. How big of a failure is this? I think it's pretty unforgivable, a failure for the U.S. men's national team. And what bothers me most about this failure isn't really the way it happened. The red card and the subsequent events against Panama are beyond Gregg Berhalter's control in some sense. I'll come back to this because it's all wrapped up in some other ideas that certainly I've been thinking about and a lot of people have been thinking about. But the fact that the United States failed to make it out of the group, you kind of have to separate that from the results. Let's just review very quickly because why not? Why not relive our pain? The U.S. fails to beat Bolivia by a score that felt definitive. They get the job done. They get 3 points. It sets them up for the remaining 2 games. But we started to see, or we were already seeing, even in game number 1, that maybe this team wasn't quite up for it, ready to play at this level as we had hoped for. Then, of course, you get the game against Panama, the early collision with Matt Turner, which set things on a bad course, and then almost immediately the red card from Tim Weah that puts the United States behind the 8 ball, down a man, against not a great team, Panama. I mean, we've seen it. We saw what they did against Colombia, getting absolutely shellacked in the quarterfinal. But that game and the way it went, sort of elements of it beyond Berhalter's control. We can talk about whether or not it was smart to go into a shell the way the Americans did in the second half, taking off a number of players who could have helped you at least provide some danger and maybe kept Panama honest. I think the Ethan Horvath involvement in replacement as a replacement for Matt Turner certainly affected that game. I don't want to relitigate that game. That's 1 point of failure. But again, everything looked like you should have been able to progress out of the group stage if you were mildly competent. So you set yourself up for the game against Uruguay. Everything goes into that game. Now, no Tim Weah changes the complexion of the match, obviously. I get it. But if you can't get yourself up to beat a South American side, a good one that might actually win this tournament after they get past Brazil, but if you can't get yourself up, then what are we doing here? Right? Like, I know that there's probably a standard that is too much to ask for the U.S. men's national team, and maybe that's consecutive games against top-level opponents in a tournament like this. And maybe the idea of beating a string of top 20 opponents in any competition is a lot to ask for this U.S. men's national team. And I do think that the correction that is happening in sort of how we think about this team is probably necessary, even if I think it's probably overstated that this team just isn't talented. This team has talent. Whether it is being utilized properly is a different question. It's not exactly excusing Berhalter, and the people that have written about this and commented on it, I don't think that's what they're doing. But it seems such an easy, reductive place to go immediately after something like this, after a Copa America tournament that did not meet our expectations, for writers and for pundits and for people to say, oh, well, actually, you know what? The United States isn't really talented. This isn't a golden generation. First of all, who the hell was saying it was a golden generation? Those words did not even come up until after this failure, at least in the world that I live in. I mean, you might have seen some people saying it sort of facetiously. And I do think that it's probably fair to say, with the number of players who have played Champions League level football over the last couple of years that are part of this group, you can say it is a very good generation in terms of talent for the United States of America specifically. Like, can we provide that bit of context? Right? It's golden relative to some past generations of the U.S. men's national team. I mean, think about it in comparison to the generation that missed the World Cup in 2018. Remember how big of a gap there was between the older players who were definitely aging out, who were ready to go, who probably would have been pushed out if there was a better level of talent coming up behind them, and then the very young players, a la Christian Pulisic, who were asked to carry a heavy burden in that World Cup qualifying campaign because we had this massive gap where things had just gone horribly wrong from a developmental perspective. By comparison, this is an incredibly talented group. Now, if you want to get into it, maybe we'll do a video one day comparing player for player, talent for talent, with a team like the 2002 U.S. men's national team that made a quarterfinal at a World Cup, that played a very good game against Germany, and that could have been a semifinalist if the soccer gods went our way. Sure, right? And I know there are some old timers out there, and shout out to them. I work with one of them. I'm friends with some of them. I respect a lot of them and what they've done for American soccer. They love to talk about how this group is overrated and our guys could have played with this group or better than this group. They would have pushed this group. They would have been starting in this generation. Maybe that's true. It's impossible to prove. Simply impossible to prove that generation, the 94, the 2002 generation, had players as good or better. And again, if you pick out certain players in certain spots, you absolutely be able to make that argument. But that doesn't excuse this performance. It doesn't excuse this failure at Copa America on home soil in the United States. Right? That's the part that really gets me. You can sort of excuse away a lot of struggles, particularly for a somewhat inexperienced team. And I know this one was not as inexperienced, but go back to Qatar 2022. I was willing to give a pretty big pass on some of that stuff because this was not a battle-tested team. I know they've been through qualifying, obviously not even as good in qualifying as we thought they should have been based on their talent. I think that maybe there's some unrealistic expectations with this group of U.S. men's national team players, but that still does not forgive failing to get out of the group at Copa America. At least getting a knockout game where you can say, hey, we made it to this point. We gave ourselves a shot to make a semifinal in a tournament that we had at home. Historical context matters. People would say, hey, we made the semifinal of a Copa America back in 2016 with a group of players who were decidedly lesser accomplished, at least in terms of their club affiliation. Whether they were better players, worse players, I'll let you decide. It is important to remember that the path to that semifinal for the United States was relatively easy, and then they ran up against Argentina, and we know what happened there. But I think, and I know this is, again, the hard to prove thing, and you can go and look at the stats and the data, and you can pick out the parts of that data that will say whether this team has progressed in certain areas. If we're talking about eye test, if we're talking about mentality, if we're talking about attitude, if we're talking about just going out and winning games, come hell or high water, no matter how you play, in whatever way you can, this team lacks for that. And if we rewind and go all the way back to the beginning of the Gregg Berhalter era, that was one of the things that stood out. That this seems like a nice guy. Seems like a guy who has some pretty interesting ideas about how the U.S. men's national team can play. Seems to be a guy who can bring them together and put them in a situation where they all like playing with one another. That's good, I guess. I mean, I would certainly rather play for a coach who makes it fun than one who doesn't. But I'm wondering, and this comes back to that thing that's come up. just how comfortable is this group of players? Are they too comfortable under Gregg Berhalter? Do they need to be uncomfortable in order to get better performances out of them? Maybe they need to be pushed. Maybe Berhalter isn't making that internal competition for spots intense enough to generate the kind of performances that we really need to see at this level. And I think culture has got a lot to do with this. I don't want to use that as an excuse. But you look at a country like Uruguay, they've got a battle-tested mentality monster, completely, I'm not even sure what words you can use to describe Marcelo Bielsa that haven't already been used, right? We know he's got an aggressive style. That is his mentality about how the game should play. It's also who he is and the image he projects that I think is interesting here, because Berhalter does not do that, right? The thing you don't get from Berhalter is this sense of pure confidence, or even just a sense that he knows himself and the team knows itself. He talks about that a lot. We get a lot of words about that. Comes back to this leadership culture thing, but it doesn't actually come out very often on the field against Mexico. And that's it. And we are obviously saying that this is not a very good Mexican team at the moment, hasn't been for a while, and that is no longer enough of an achievement to justify continuing with this group that Gregg Berhalter has, continuing with his leadership, I should say. That's pretty clear. Those wins over Mexico are nice, but they're meant to be the first step or a step on the way to doing more, winning outside of CONCACAF. And we can't do it. Simply can't do it. And I understand that some could make an argument, I don't think many are right now, that this group might not win outside of CONCACAF no matter who the manager was. But after 6 years, it's time to try. After 6 years, it's time to see if somebody else can get more out of this team. Maybe it's a formational change. Maybe it's just attitude. I don't know what it is. Giving other players a chance than what we have here. And I'm not saying that I have a long list of players who deserve to be in the national team who aren't. John Brooks is coming up a lot recently. There are people out there spread U.S. men's national team rumors, claim to have inside sources talking about John Brooks. Okay, fine. Maybe that is a strike against, I don't know, Berhalter, the leadership council, whoever voted on whatever thing supposedly happened. Maybe that's a thing. Obviously, we can go back to Berhalter's original hiring and the people that were at the federation at the time, and then we can talk about when he was rehired after the investigation and what role Joe Cocker had in that process. And obviously, when it comes to Matt Crocker, there is also a rumor out, says he doesn't attend games. He'd rather watch the Euros. He doesn't even work from headquarters. Fine. I mean, look, if you are intent on wanting to tear down the federation, I can't stop you from having that mentality. And I suppose I would like a complete leadership change as well. But first, I'd just like a new head coach for the U.S. men's national team. And I'd like it done now, because it's going to be nearly impossible for a new coach to really get anything done with this team ahead of a World Cup in 2026 unless he's given some sort of runway. The problem, of course, is that there are no competitive matches for the U.S. men between now and the World Cup with no qualifying. Like I know that you can look at what Jesse Marsch has done with Canada and imagine he's made such a difference in them that that's why they made a semifinal of a Copa America. Okay. They have some nice players. They've had some nice moments. They've overcome the Tajon Buchanan injury to some extent, but they haven't beaten anybody. And then when they have beaten somebody, it's not necessarily a comprehensive performance. I'm not saying that Jesse hasn't accomplished something. And by the way, that all speaks to how important the draw is, or certain other things breaking your way in a tournament, which is something you can't account for. So what do? You go find the best possible coach to kind of try to give you a gap between those worst case scenarios and the best case scenarios, and your performances can help you overcome bad luck. And that's not what the United States has. I can't tell you for sure that the U.S. would have played better against Panama or done something different or won that game or drawn that game with Jesse Marsch in charge. But it feels like that might be true because of the way Canada's playing, because of the person that Jesse Marsch is. By the way, if you want to continue your list of transgressions committed by U.S. Soccer, add Jesse Marsch's interviewing process, clearly not hiring, interviewing process to your list. Because Jesse has said, and I've heard from other people, he wasn't treated very well, that he was treated unprofessionally, that the interview process itself left a lot to be desired. And yeah, that's not defensible in any way, shape, or form. I don't know that hiring Jesse Marsch was the right decision, but hiring somebody else was back in January, February, March, April, May, June of 2023. It was June, right? No, whatever month. I don't know. It was the Nations League when Berhalter came back. Something that got out before the Federation even wanted it to, which again speaks to some of the problems at the Federation. Here is the moment for the Fed to make a change. There are not a whole lot of obvious candidates. The internet is on fire over the idea that Jurgen Klopp might actually want this job. I think this all comes from one reporter answering a Q&A and suggesting that if Jurgen Klopp, let's put that word if over here because it's very important. If Jurgen Klopp were going to consider in this hypothetical world where a man who's now currently on a sabbatical after successful seasons in Liverpool, one of the highest pressure jobs in club football, if he were to consider coaching at the international level, the two countries he would consider would be Germany and the United States of America. None of that says he would take the job if offered. That is not what any of the reporting says. It doesn't account for how much money Jurgen Klopp might ask in order to take the job. I will say the Federation has some pretty big corporate sponsors. If you want to go get a high-quality candidate for this job, maybe you look to them and say, hey, you want us to have a good World Cup in 2026? Here we go. I don't know if the sponsors trust the Federation to make a choice. Like, I don't know if that's a thing. I know there are boycotts out there. That's how upset people are. I have a right to be upset over some of the missteps the Federation has made. Do we trust them to go find the right guy? If the alternative to Gregg Berhalter is not all that impressive, if he's just Berhalter Redux, a guy with a limited club resume who had a couple nice years in MLS, I don't know. I mean, maybe this is addition by subtraction. Get Berhalter out, see what's out there, shake the trees, see if anything falls out. Maybe that is Jurgen Klopp. And if he is legitimately available, absolutely you hire Jurgen Klopp. If you can find the money to pay him or he will take the salary you have available, then you hire Jurgen Klopp. If that slightly unrealistic possibility doesn't come to pass, well, then who else is out there? I don't know if you can get some of these coaches who have had good summer tournaments out of their nations, out of their jobs. Ralf Rangnick comes to mind, had a pretty good tournament with Austria. Maybe he's the guy that you go after. And I'm thinking in part about the way that he plays and how it might benefit the United States to take some sort of aggressive, pressurized approach to the game. Obviously, Jurgen Klopp could bring something like that to the table. Jesse Marsch would have brought something like that to the table. Let's keep in mind, again, this is a national team. You have limited time with them. Again, with this team ahead of 2026, you'll have limited time in competitive matches. In fact, you'll have zero time in competitive matches. We have a Gold Cup. Am I missing a Gold Cup between now and then? I guess, yeah. We got a 2025 Gold Cup or something, when there's also a massive Club World Cup coming to America that nobody seems to really want. Anyway, all of this makes this job really, really difficult to find the right candidate for. But I think we all agree it's time for Berhalter to go. It's time for him to say goodbye to this job and for somebody else to come in. And we could talk Cherundolo, who has lineage with the national team. Berhalter did too. Cherundolo was a Hall of Famer. His attitude about the way the game is played, particularly his approach to counterattacking football, is something that resonates with me and the U.S. men's national team. And maybe his attitude is the right one. Now, he doesn't jump off the page as an inspirational leader or somebody who's got this hard edge mentality about him, but I think that his German background from having played there for so long and starting his coaching career there might benefit the United States on a number of levels. We can certainly talk about other candidates. Drop them in comments or let us know what you think those other candidates might be that are legitimately out there for the U.S. men's national team. But again, we've seen the evidence. Berhalter has had a second bite of the tournament apple, and it has not gone well. It's time for him to go. It's time for a change to be made. And as I record this, and it's Monday, July 8th, we're in this purgatory area. We had reports last week. I think Doug McIntyre of Fox Soccer said that U.S. Soccer will be making a decision this week. Again, this comes ahead of the rumors that are bouncing around about just how involved Matt Crocker or Joe Cocker, whatever you want to call him, actually is, whether this is something that he will ultimately be deciding or if it falls to somebody else, maybe the CEO of U.S. Soccer, which is mind-boggling that that would be the case. But as I record this, nothing has been announced. Perhaps by the time Jared and I get together on Thursday night for that 9 p.m. Best Soccer show, we'll have some clarity. And if not, you can hear it now. The torches and the pitchforks and everything. I mean, they're already out. The people will be storming, figuratively speaking, U.S. Soccer headquarters, which I think has just moved to Atlanta. Guys, did you know that the address change has happened? I don't know if you got the card. It said U.S. Soccer is now based in Atlanta, Georgia. They've moved their headquarters to Atlanta on the back of all that money that Uncle Arthur gave U.S. Soccer to help grow the sport in America. So how about we grow the sport in America with the U.S. men's national team doing better on the field? Other news on the men's national team front, the Olympic team going to Paris, kicking off the tournament against France in Marseille in a couple weeks' time. The roster is out. Marko Mitrovic picking 18 players. It's all you get to take to the Olympics. Goalkeepers are Patrick Schulte, Gaga Slonina. Okay, no real issue there. Schulte should be the starter. Gaga the backup in my mind. Maximilian Dietz, Nathan Harriel, Miles Robinson, John Tolkien, Caleb Wiley, Walker Zimmerman. You have two overage center backs. I guess those are going to be the guys, right? There is a lack of center back depth in the younger age groups for the U.S. men's national team. Jalen Neal, how healthy, ready is he? He's not here. So I guess Miles Robinson, Walker Zimmerman are going to be your center back pairing. And then you got Tolkien and Wiley and Harriel to give you some flexibility with fullbacks. You need Tolkien to have a big tournament, obviously. Caleb Wiley looks like he's making a move to Europe soon. So that's out there. Midfielders are Busio, Benjamin Kramaski, Jack McGlynn, Georgie Mihalovic, also an overage player, and Tanner Tessman. Tessman's been great in Italy. He's getting attention from clubs like Inter Milan. He is the only real number 6 type of player in this group. So you have no backup there. Aiden Morris maybe could have been a candidate for this team, but he's made the transfer to Middlesbrough, and they're not releasing him. Releasing players, that's the major factor here for the Olympic team and for Marko Mitrovic, because Ricardo Pepi and Malik Tillman, age eligible for this team, were not released by PSV. So if Marco wanted to bring in those players who are senior national team level players for this Olympic run, he can't, because their club will not release them, and that's the rules that apply here. Forwards are Paxton Aronson, Taylor Booth, Duncan McGuire, Kevin Paredes, and Griffin Yao. You have one clear number 9 in Duncan McGuire. Apparently Paxton Aronson could also play there. At least that's what Marco is talking about. What's not here, a name that is missing that has gotten people really upset, is Diego Luna of RSL, who's been really, really good recently for RSL, doing bluey dad dances and stuff after scoring goals for his team. The problem is, and this is a problem of U.S. Soccer's making, the problem is that there's no obvious place for Diego Luna in this team. That his best position is maybe playing through the middle as a creative player, which in a 4-3-3, especially if you don't believe that you'll be able to impress yourself on the game and dictate proceedings, is a lost defensive spot when Diego Luna is on the field. Or Diego Luna's defense leaves something to be desired, which then means do you put him in the middle and try to make up for it with more defensive-minded midfielders? Well, again, which we mentioned, only Tanner Tessman is really kind of a number 6 here. Or Do you put Diego Luna on the wing? They clearly have not opted for that. They clearly have decided that they like other wing options better than Diego Luna. And again, there are lots of players involved here. Diego Luna is just one. I don't think you completely dictate how the national team plays based on one player. Even if I love Diego Luna as a player, he's clearly not at the level where everything needs to center around him. He's not Lionel Messi, which means then where do you make your sacrifices? How do you put a team together that can be successful? The structure works with Diego Luna on the field if you want him to be in this team. Now, I would take him, have him on the bench, bring him into games if you need goals. That's the kind of player Diego Luna is. He can make something happen on his own. And one thing that seems to be missing for our national team at the moment is a group of players, a number of players, more than one player who could take the game on his shoulders or create a moment of magic to push his team to victory. We have maybe one of those players at the senior level. And I'm not putting Gio Reyna in that group because he hasn't been consistent enough to deserve it. And obviously Christian Pulisic can only do so much for the U.S. men's national team. We don't have enough next level players. It's one of the things that's coming out in that conversation about this group and the talent level. We just don't have enough players at the Christian Pulisic level or higher to win games on a regular basis. The margin of error is small. It's going to be true in France as well for the Olympic team. I'm hoping for something better that will wash out the bad taste in our mouth after Copa America. I'm hoping that we get a good Olympic performance. Like, come on with a medal, boys. I mean, obviously, why not gold? I'm American. I'm used to gold medals at the Olympics. That's just what we do. Since I was a little boy, rooting for the United States against the USSR. Yeah. Cold War Olympics were the best Olympics, and don't let anybody else tell you otherwise. We'll see. No Diego Luna is sad. Obviously, RSL will benefit on some level, and if he keeps tearing it up at RSL, we'll be talking about senior level national team in the very near future for Diego Luna. Maybe a move to Europe. Maybe that's coming soon. Who knows? I will say the other part of this is it might be Georgie Mihailovic or Diego Luna, but not both. And Georgie's an overage player. And I don't know exactly what the negotiations look like for overage players. Georgie, as a DP in Colorado, probably has enough pull to say, I want to go play in the Olympics. Colorado not willing to stop him from doing that, even though he's massively important to what the Rapids have built this season or are still building this season. I like Georgie as a player, but he needs to have a big moment on a bigger stage than MLS if we're really going to buy fully into the idea of Georgie Mihailovic as a national teamer, as a player who maybe goes back to Europe at some point in the near future. And that might be part of this. Georgie, after a bad experience in Holland, comes back to play Major League Soccer and tells the Rapids, all right, I'll sign for you, but I have to go to the Olympics as an overage player. You wonder if Miles Robinson made the same deal with Cincinnati when he left Atlanta for Cincinnati. Took a big contract, got paid, didn't go to Europe. Not sure exactly what this is other than maybe he just wants the Olympic experience, and I don't blame him. Don't blame him for that at all. All right. Thanks for watching or listening to this impromptu solo episode of The Best Soccer Show. I appreciate it, guys. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a like, subscribe to the channel, get notified when we're going to go live. Thursday night, 9 p.m. is the next live show, so make sure you're on board for that. It's always more fun when we do it live. Also, if you're listening on podcast, ratings and reviews help out the show. And, of course, we've got a Patreon at patreon.com/thebestsoccershow. Get access to the Best Bonus Show archive, all the extra stuff we've done. You also get access to the Slack, where we have an incredible American soccer community of people who talk trash, who know the game, who support each other, who are on top of all the news. Here's a way to sell the Bestie Slack. Let's say you're kind of like me, and you don't think that social media is very healthy for you, or it's kind of it's a doom scrolling situation, and enough of that already. If you join the Bestie Slack, you'll get all that news that comes out on social media, except you won't have to visit social media. It's one of the benefits of being a Patreon member. All right. Jared will be back on Thursday. Excited for that. Make sure you join us then. Thank you very much for watching, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon.